Hello, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of our Django Vue application. I need to get everything open back up and kind of some other stuff I'm working on right now. I'm kind of interested in taking the Google Data Science certificate and seeing what that's about. Very interesting stuff. I'm learning data structures in 8 hours. I'm learning Spacey. This is really cool. I want to use this to make a learning Korean application. Basically, I want to take as much data as possible, as much Korean text as possible from online, from different sources, categorize them, and pick the most frequently used words and study those. Make a flashcard application and everything, and that's going to be another project I'm going to be doing. So I'm learning Spacey, and it's got a learning curve to it. I don't. It's a little different. Um, Data science in 6 hours is an older course though, 3 years, but it should give me a kind of a rundown of the big picture of data science. Mighty Car Mods. Gotta have some entertainment in there. Machine learning. Right now we're going through pandas, NumPy, and Matplot. And then not really that far into the video yet, but I am actually going through and I'm actually following the tutorial. So speaking of a tutorial, let's find our tutorial. And we called it blog. So I'm just going to open this up in my Visual Code Editor, and I have my nice terminal right here. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's get started. Um, is there anything else I wanted to show you guys before I got started? Not really. Um, oh yeah. Also, I kind of, I forget things. I gotta go look over things, um, like opening up a file and whatnot. Simple stuff like that. I always forget how to do things. It's okay. But I also want to go through some Python's map um, method and kind of go through some functional programming for Python. Um, I think that would be very useful. And I'm also taking a look at these algorithms written in Java. A little different. I want to explore other languages and get a better grasp of algorithms because I suck at algorithms. I do not have a computer science degree, so I do not have that background. And I'm looking at Unity as well. Typical ADHD processes here. Just looking at everything possible. Okay, let's get back to our Visual Code application. So I already recorded this video and the audio was not working, so I'm recording it again. We are here back in settings.py, and I have to kind of see what I need again, and what we're working on. So we are going to start an application. We're going to call it post. So in our terminal, we will first go into our virtual environment using source. We want to go into, I called mine venv, bin, and activate. And then you'll get these you'll get this right here, telling me that I'm in my virtual environment. I wonder if I can make this any bigger. Maybe not. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. And then what we'll do after this is we need to do Python manage, which is actually inside blog manage.py, and then we need to start app, and we're gonna call it post with an S. Post. I can't even say that. Okay, so we have our new application. Not a different application per se, but Django uses the word application to mean a different part of your project, I guess. Still part of the same application. Um, we want to work on our models. So this is what we're going to work on today is the models. And then the next video, we're going to make a quick test to see if our models are okay. I'm going to open up the project I've already worked on as kind of something to look at. My ADH memory is not the best. So, and then we can look at it together to see what I've done in here. It's called car blog instead of blog, and then the post application is actually called blog in this case. I'm going to look at models and kind of see what I was doing. So we have a BytesIO, and can I remember what that does? That is for uploading files, and we need to upload files. We need to upload them as a data stream, as a stream of data. That's right. It was for a buffer stream. Let's just go and look online right quick to know exactly what the bytes IO in Python really does. So we get a real definition. This is what I was reading last time, I just forgot. So the IO module allows us to manage file-related input and output operations. So it does have something related to uploading our files, mostly going to be images in this case. And we're using BytesIO. And so there's a string IO, BytesIO. Just like what we can do with variables, data can be kept as bytes in an in-memory buffer when we use the IO module's BytesIO operations. So it is an in-memory buffer to basically upload data as bytes instead of like a string or whatnot. That's good. You guys can kind of look a little bit here. Maybe I'll have this in the description and stuff so you can read it yourself. It's not a very long read, but yeah, you can see these are a little different encoding right here. They're not in text encoding. It's actually bytes right here. So a little different. And when we upload a file, when we upload a picture, we're going to have to upload it in a different way and to also have to save that in the database. It's going to be a little different than just inputting it as a text or a string or an array or something. So I have limited knowledge on that stuff, but I just want to be clear with what that means. And then we have the pillow library, which is used to manipulate images because we're going to have to make a thumbnail from our full-size images. And then we have we're inputting file from the Django core files, and then of course our models. I actually have that twice over here. I don't need it twice. There we go. Okay, so we have our inputs, our things that we're gonna input or import, I mean. So let's go ahead and import all that in there. And I think from IO, I think IO is part of the standard library, so you do not have to actually download it or use pip to download it. BytesIO from IO, and we want pill. In the last video, I installed pill. I guess I can show you my pip list again. And then we need to do file from the Django .core files import file, big file. And we already have our models imported in. So the way this is going to work, the root model that we're going to have, our root that's going to be in our database, the root table, that all the other tables are going to rely on is going to be called category. And this is going to be a category of your posts. So, for example, if you're making a blog about cooking, and maybe you have different styles of cooking. Maybe you cook Korean food and you cook Italian food. You can have a category about Italian food, and you can have a category called Korean food, and you can categorize all your posts. And see, the beauty in this is that you can also have a link on your page where you can click it, and so if you want to filter out and only look at posts that deal with Korean food, you're going to click post for Korean food, and then it will show you only all the posts for Korean food. It's pretty good for filtering things out. It's also really good for setting up your application and everything and making it very organized. And it's going to be implementing a one-to-many relationship, which I'll talk about later. Let's go ahead and make the table first. I'm going to be talking a lot, and I'm also going to get distracted a lot. This is not a tutorial that is meant to be fast, and it's definitely not going to be concise at all. I'm going to go down rabbit holes all the time. But it's just about let's learn this together and kind of I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. Of course, I can't explain exactly how everything works. I'm dependent on libraries and I have limited computer science knowledge too. But here we go. We have a class and we're calling it category, and then we have we're passing in models and then model. And this comes from this class right here, or this library from here, from the Django.db. And this is basically how we start a table using the Django's object relational mapper. And it's going to get everything and it's going to make it into SQL for us. So we don't have to worry about any SQL or SQL. Our first column is going to be name, and this is going to be the name of the of our category. It's going to be a char field, and we have to have max length as an argument. We have to have it. And in this case, I just did 255. I don't know if that really makes sense. I don't think a name has to be that long, but I'm just doing it. Gonna have really long names. Then we need a slug, and this is gonna help us with our views and with our URLs later on. It's gonna be very helpful, so we don't have to try to deal with that type of logic inside our views. We can kind of pass that down to the model. It's going to be a slug field, and it does not require any arguments. And then we have a class called meta that's inside, and this is metadata. And one of the metadata that we can set is the ordering, so how you want to order it when you query. When you query a category and you get back results, you can do ordering, and we're going to order it by name, and I believe this will be alphabetical when we do this. And then we have a tailing um, thing here, comma. Don't know if we need that. In fact, I'm going to see if I can get away with not having that. See what happens. Might produce an error. Then we're going to have a function inside of here, and it's going to be the string function, and those are double underquotes, str double underquote. This is kind of a Python thing, and it's going to take itself, and basically when we for example, if we wanted to print out a category to the console when we're debugging, what we're going to get back is we're going to have a general like object or something, and it's not going to be readable, and we're probably going to have like a memory address too, which is definitely not going to be readable. It's going to be like object and then some type of memory address and memory, and we're not a computer. We don't know what that means. We don't is somewhere in RAM and whatnot. It's not going to be readable for us, and it's not going to help us debug. So we want, when we do a print statement or we do any type of output for a category that we got back or whatever, we want it to give us the name of it so we know what category we have. And this is going to help us in debugging, and you're going to have to you're going to have to debug and have lots of print statements and stuff. Even if you follow this tutorial, you might run into your own bugs. It happens. And then our next method is get absolute URL, and this is going to help us set up our routing and stuff later on. It's going to take self. Oh man, yeah, that was coming. Return. It's going to return a formatted string, and these are really cool. You put F and then you put a string. Put F before a string, and you can use interpolation. Oops, they are the squiggly brackets. Self dot slug. This is our slug right here, and self is just calling itself. So we can add that. Then we don't forget to have your slashes here, because this is part of a URL. And this is, it's going to be kind of equal to if you were to do like, I guess if you were to do something like, oh man, how does this work again? I think, yeah, you can just do it like that, right? And then you just dot format, and then you pass in self dot slug. And then I guess the other alternative would be kind of like the old C style, where you kind of do it like this for string, and then you can do it like this as well. But we don't have to do any of that. We just do it like this. It's so much more easier. It just makes everything so much easier. I like it a lot. I like that construct. Okay, so we're done with categories, and next is our post, and our post is going to actually be the actual post that we make in our blog. Big M right here. And it's going to have a foreign key, and this is when I'm going to talk about the one-to-many relationship. So for each category, there's going to be many types of post. And for one post, it's always going to be linked to a category. It is a one-to-many relationship. There's only one category, but there's multiple posts. This is a thing that you will run into a lot when designing databases and stuff. One-to-many, and there's also many-to-many. And I don't think I've done a many-to-many relationship in the Django yet. I've done it in using Flask SQL Alchemy, but I have not done it in Django yet. So the way you do this, we're going to call it category, and it's going to be models dot foreign key, and then inside for arguments, I'm going to go ahead and do a space. I'm going to pass in the class name that we want to set as our foreign key that's coming in. Do a comma. Then our next one is going to be related name. And I'm going to call this, you can call it whatever you want, but you need to remember what you call it because this is going to be extremely useful. This is basically a kind of like a back reference or a relationship right here. So we have a foreign key here. So when we query a post and we want to find its category, we can get its category. Vice versa, when you query a category and you want to get all the posts for that category, there's going to be a nice column now that Django is going to make for us automatically called post. And this is going to be kind of like our relationship, whatever it is in Flask SQL Alchemy. Django does that for you automatically, and it's part of its dry process. Do not repeat yourself. But remember, this is going to be accessible from category. So we are going to be using this heavily in our serializers in order to get all the posts for one category. And we'll use it more for the next one that we build, the next model we build. On delete basically is what happens when we delete a particular post. What happens? Or what happens if we delete a category that is linked to this post? So what I'm going to set this to is models and then cascade. So I believe what this is going to do, I could be completely wrong about this, but in this case, since we have a foreign key linked up to a particular category, if we were to delete the parent category that a particular post is linked to, then cascade means that on deletion of a category, the category is also, it's going to cause all the posts that are linked to it to also be deleted. I have not tested that out yet. And maybe it is a good test for us to do when we write our test right here for our models. So maybe that's something I'm going to put to the test to see. I could be completely wrong, and if I am, correct me in the comments, because I'm learning this stuff too. Next is going to be a title. And it's going to kind of be the same thing, a char field. And so I'm just going to take the model's char field and copy paste. And then we're going to have the same slug right here. Same thing, we can copy and paste up here. Models.slug field. And we have a short description. And this is kind of something that we don't need, but it's good to have. It's going to be kind of when you list out all the views, like a list of all the posts for one category or whatnot, you're going to have, it's going to show you the short description to kind of give you a rundown of what this post was about and whatnot. And it's not necessary, so you can include it or you can ignore it. It's going to be a text field, and in order to be able to not be required to enter in a column when you make a new post, we have to give Django two arguments. One is called blank, and we have to set that to true, so that allows it to be blank and to be empty. And the other one is to allow it to be null, which is also going to be true. So that is an optional. We do not have to have that. And then we're going to have date added. This is important because I want to organize and kind of return all my posts in the order from newest all the way down to oldest. Very important for a blog, right? So I just want to have that set up right from the get-go. I don't want to have to make that logic later on. Let's make it right now. So date time filled is what we need. And to make it automatically do this, we're going to do auto now add equal to true. I think that's what it is, right? Yes, auto now. So when we make a new post, it's going to automatically give it a timestamp for every new post we make. So we don't even have to worry about any of that, which is awesome. We're going to have another class, meta, and we're going to set up ordering again. And like I said before, we're going to order it by date added. Ordering. Yeah, that's right. And then we're going to have our date added, but we're going to have a negative date added to signify that we want it kind of reversed. And again, I'm going to try to not do that, but that's how I did it, so I don't know if that is going to mean anything. But then we're going to also do a string, and we're also going to do this as well. So we're just going to copy and paste. The get absolute is going to be a little different though. The get absolute is going to be a little bit longer than the other one because remember that the categories that the post is going to be linked up to a category no matter what. So in our URL, we want to get the category URL. So we're going to add to this, and it's going to be the same self slug at the end, but in the very beginning of the URL, we want to put in self.category, and then we want the slug of that category. So this slug is different from the slug for the post. It's actually the slug from here. So we want to start out with that first. And that looks good. It's exactly what we need. Okay, now we're going to hop out of this code block here. And we're going to have our last class. And this is going to be element, and this is going to allow us to have multiple different types of elements per post. And we have our models, model again, and then we are going to link this up to post, another one-to-many relationship. So we're going to use one-to-many again. It's going to be called post for this column, and it's going to be models dot foreign key. And as arguments, we're going to take the class post. Its related name is going to be called elements. I like to just call it, elements, like, it's an element that's going to show up as a column in post. And I like to make it plural to mean that there's probably most likely more than one. Depending if we ever added any elements for that post. And then on delete, it's going to be the same thing. I'm just going to do models cascade. So if you want to delete a post, it's going to delete all the elements as well, which makes perfect sense. And we're going to have an inner HTML. It's going to be capital H HTML. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but this is going to be our inner HTML, and this is going to be useful for embedding frames from YouTube. So if you want to embed your YouTube video, you can do so. And you can also embed anything you want, really. But you don't have to, because we're going to set it blank to true. And we're going to set null to true as well. So it is optional, but it is going to be extremely useful later on. I also have an element type, which I do not think I actually use in the application, but we're going to make it anyway, just in case if we want to go that route. And I think for the inner HTML, as long as we do not have a way for users to kind of input that into the database, I think we're going to be okay. You definitely don't want users to be able to do that. We will have to be in the admin console and be admin to actually add those to the database using the Django's admin console. Max length for element type, I'll just go 50, which is probably way too long, but we're gonna do it anyway. Then we're gonna have image. The image is gonna be something that I am also very limited in explaining. And I also recently found out a few things about static files when trying to put this onto a server, which we'll get to that later on. We're not going to worry about right now. We just want to get started up with a local dev server, so we're not going to worry about it too much. Okay, so our upload to is going to be to a folder called uploads. And I think this uploads is going to be kind of like a temporary place, probably kind of where it's going to upload a file, and then after that it's going to put it into a permanent location. It's kind of put like a temporary directory, if I understand correctly. Blank is also going to be true, because we're not going to be uploading images all the time, and then no is also going to be true as well. Oh. And then we need our thumbnail. ImageField, and it is going to be the same stuff. Upload to uploads. We're just going to copy and paste that. And then we have our class meta and ordering. Oh. We're going to order it by ID, which is the thing we... oh, excuse me. Another thing in the Django is you don't have to have even talk about ID. I think in Flask Alchemy you do. And then we are gonna have our same thing as self and get absolute URL and other stuff as well as like that. Except for the getting URL, it's gonna look a lot different. There's three functions that we're gonna be writing that's gonna look a lot different from before. The images add a little bit more complexity to this. We don't have a name for element. It's going to just return. I had it return element type, and I don't know if that's a good idea actually. I actually really don't know what to. Actually, element type is required, so I do not have null and blank on there. Okay, so maybe it's okay. Because we're going to have to define an element type every time we add an element, so it should be good for using it as the name. We're going to have another method called getImage. If self image, then we're going to return our HTTP, our localhost 127.0.0.1, port 8000 plus self, then image dot URL. Image dot URL is something that we have not set yet, but we will set it. I think we will set that in the get thumbnail, get image. Actually, I can't really see where we get that from. It works though, I know it works. I do not know where image has something called URL on it though. That's very weird. Let me just kind of look through it again. Yeah, okay, so it might be something that we set outside of the models. Our next thing is to get the thumbnail. If self dot thumbnail, then we're going to basically return same thing. And we actually forgot to do this here. There's actually an else statement here where it's just going to return a blank string. Okay, and then also for get thumbnail, we have a else except it's going to be more involved. There's going to be another if-else statement. If self-image, this is the part where if you have an image uploaded, then we're going to use pillow to make a thumbnail, which is another function that we'll have to make as well. So we'll do self thumbnail equals to self make thumbnail. And we're going to pass in the self image. And then we're going to do a self save. Save it to the database, and then we're going to return our thumbnail URL. So let's copy and paste that. Image needs to be thumbnail. Also up here, it needs to be thumbnail as well. Yeah, and then if it does not have a self image, then we're going to return the good old empty string. So that's that for that. And then we need to make our make thumbnail method right here. And this should be the last one we have to do. Again, I do actually not know where we're getting URL from. So that could be the way it's set up in views or URLs maybe. I'm going to have to look at the code. We're going to look at it together after we make this method to see where that comes from, because it's very important to know what we're doing. This is code that comes from another tutorial that I am copying because I want to have images and stuff, and I'm still kind of going through it myself to really understand what's going on. And I'm going back to the documentation of the Django to see how it fits in. A lot of this stuff probably comes straight from the documentation. Our thumbnail is going to be 300 by 200 pixels. It's going to accept the image, of course, and it's going to have a self. And we're going to be using pillow to manipulate the image. And this is something, I do know about better. We're going to do an image right here is actually pillow. So from pillow, import image. So we are using pillow library right here, right now. And so we're opening the image that we pass in and the self image. So we pass this in as the image, and we open the image, and then we do an image dot convert, and we're going to convert it to RGB, red, green, blue, and then we're going to do something called thumbnail method, and we're going to set it to this size right here. And this is kind of a default right here. So I imagine if you were to take this, copy and paste it, and put it right here, put a comma, and then put it right here, and then you could actually make it a different size if you wanted to, like a 500 by 500, if you really wanted to. But if you don't pass anything, then it's going to set it as a default size set to this. That takes care of that, and then we're going to use our buffer to upload it. So our BytesIO, thumb.io is going to equal to BytesIO method and image.save, and then we have our frame buffer right here, not frame buffer, our memory buffer, thumb.io, and then we're going to also do it as a JPEG, and the quality is going to be 85%. And then our thumbnail is going to equal, we're using file, which is from the Django right here. We have our same buffer IO, and then we have our name is going to be set to image name. And every image has a name, right? Another thing that we're going to have to find where it comes from. So each image has a name and a URL. And where are they getting these names and URLs from? Oh, you know what? I think I may know where they're getting their name and URL from. I am going to assume that it's something built inside of Django's object relational mapper right here, models.ImageField. And we're going to look online and we're going to verify that because I want to understand what all these variables mean. And then we're going to return the thumbnail. And that's it for the models. And now we're going to look at some documentation for models.ImageField. And I just want to verify if ImageField has, let's see if we can go to the docs for the Django project. Let's see here. So, I mean, we already know about null and blank, you know, which we've already used. So we have some more stuff we can do too. But I want to go to, I want ImageField. ImageField. Upload to, height field, width field, max length. Inherits all attributes and methods from file field, but also validates that the uploaded object is a valid image. In addition to the special attributes that are available for file field, an image field also has height and width. So what does a file field have? What type of attributes? This attribute provides a way of setting the upload directory and file name and can be set in two ways. In both cases, the value is passed to the storage.save method. If you specify a string value or path, it may contain string fill time formatting, which will be replaced by the date time of the file upload, so the upload files don't fill up the given directory. Let's see here. There is a file name right here. File field storage. Oh, there it is. I found it. Field file name and image image field, right, is what it's called. Image field inherits name from field file. And we get the URL as well. So this is where we have this is what's going on here. So our selfimage.url, it gets this from here, from this class right here. This is inheritance from the parent class. Object-oriented programming right here. But okay, so we know where it comes from at least. I guess it would be useful for me to read through the documentation a little bit, and it'll be also useful for you. But we always need a reason to use the documentation, and we always need a project to work on. And so this is what we're working on here. And we have our category, our post, and our element set up. So in the next video, we will be testing our stuff out. We will be writing a test because everybody wants test. Everybody likes test. And actually, I didn't not write a test for the project. I didn't do it. When I first built it, I did not write any test at all. And that's okay for small projects and stuff. Um, but like people who interview and stuff, they're gonna freak out like you didn't write a test and whatnot. Um, Testing is one of those things that I kind of feel like you have to have like industry experience to really know about and stuff, and kind of feel like it's unfair to hold people who are just breaking into the field to these requirements that they have to use test and stuff. Nevertheless, I want to write two tests. One test to test out the models, and another test to test out the API routes to make sure they're working. That will also help us build the front end as well, because we'll know kind of what we're going to get and what we're expecting from the server, so that we can correctly format and play with the data on the front end. Um, and then I'm also thinking about using a JavaScript testing library too, for the front end as well. I might skip on that. It might be very useful though to show and to learn about that as well. We'll learn it together because I've never used a testing library for Vue or React or for JavaScript. I never have. I always thought, doing the front end, the best test is to have like a development server and to kind of just work through it and kind of do trials and errors, print statements, and have your web developer tools open and just have the page and just reload it every time you make a change to it, and kind of have the hot loading features and stuff. Every time you make a change to the code, the web browser will refresh itself. But maybe I'm missing something big here. So I want to do that together. Anyway, I'm learning. Hopefully you're learning something too. We're learning together. And in our next video, we're going to write test for models. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Jamie Lynn. Thank you, and have a great day.